podcast. I am your host, Kristen, and I am here to talk to you about what else? Knitting. I will also be talking about pattern design, other goings-on in the fiber arts community, and you may hear me mention Diego Luna at some point for absolutely no reason at all. So thank you very much for joining me for this episode. Special thank you to my Patreon patrons who help support the podcast. So if you don't know me already, my name is Kristen Janik. I'm a knitting pattern designer and knitting instructor who lives in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C. with my husband, a very tall man from Peru, and my 2 children. When I am not knitting, I am usually vegetable gardening, doing yoga, watching Orioles baseball, drinking wine, but it is mostly about the knitting, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys, I'm going to try to podcast for you today. I woke up this morning and I was like, I'm ready. I really want to do the podcast, but it's a rainy day, so the light is not great. So we'll see how it all holds up. How are you guys doing? It's been a while since I have podcasted. October is always a really busy time for our family, and I'll give you some peeks of that at the very end of the podcast in the Life in 60 segment, but it involves my birthday, we have our wedding anniversary, of course there's Halloween, and then my family has our annual sour beef dinner, usually in either late October or early November. So even with the pandemic, October was a busy month, and I am finally able to get back in front of the camera. So while I was gone, I had a birthday and turned a number that shall remain nameless, but one that I'm not particularly happy about. This was what do people like to say, milestone birthday, I guess, but of course, can't do anything. So we did have a small party here at our house, outdoors, with just a few friends and family. So that was nice, even if it was not what I had hoped for this particular birthday. We had Halloween. We did not go trick-or-treating, but I planned a bunch of activities for the kids so that we could still have some fun. So I took them over to my dad's house for a little candy scavenger hunt, and they wore their costumes. And then we came home and just took a little bit of a walk around, took some treats over to a friend's house, and then looked at Halloween decorations. And then came home and had a little party, which I thought the kids might be ready to try to watch sort of a slightly scary, kids' version of scary Halloween movie, but no. So we just ended up watching Room on the Broom and eating candy and hot dogs. So all things considered, it was still a good Halloween. Actually, my older son said it was the best Halloween yet. So I couldn't tell that by all of the whining and complaining throughout the day, but it turns out that I did an okay job with Halloween at home. We also had an election, and the good news is that Joe Biden won. He won the popular vote, which we all know doesn't matter very much, but he did win it by 5 million votes, and he also won the Electoral College vote. You wouldn't know that. By the way, the current president is acting, but he did win. And I am trying not to think too closely on all of the things I have learned from studying Latin American politics over the years. I know it could go poorly for us. I think the groundwork has been laid for trouble if Trump and the GOP want to make it. But I am holding out hope that the president will concede the election and we can all start moving forward. If you are one of the lunatics who has convinced yourself that Trump actually won and there's some huge multi-state conspiracy to rig the election in favor of Joe Biden, who you spent the last year calling Sleepy Joe and implying he had dementia, you are not welcome here. So please turn the video off, go elsewhere. But for those of us who are sane and understand how democracy works, or at least is supposed to work, we know that we have a new president, a new administration to look forward to. It is, I think, many on the left can agree, is probably not going to be as progressive as we would like, but it will be a dramatic improvement over the orange toddler throwing tantrums in the White House. So that has been that. Life has been somewhat busy even for a pandemic, but now, as in a large chunk of the country, things are growing out of control again. For the last week, Maryland has had over 1,000 new cases every day. Some restrictions are being reimposed. And of course, we knew this was going to happen. Well, those of us who believe in science and listen to scientists were warned it was going to happen, and we believed them. And so we will be doing our part, wearing our masks, staying home as much as we can. I mean, the only place we ever go is the grocery store, pretty much. I did, for the first time since June, go to a restaurant. It was outdoors, everyone was masked. That was a few weeks ago, and that'll probably be the last time for quite a while. While we are currently in the midst of, I guess what you would call a heat wave. It's almost 70 degrees right now, and it's been in the 70s all week. The weather is going to start getting colder. It is, like I said, very rainy today, and that's usually for us. It is either quite cool this time of year or it's warmer but rainy. Outdoor dining is just not going to be an option. And with cases rising, it doesn't really feel safe anyway. So I hope everyone else is staying home and staying safe as much as you can, wearing your masks and all of that good stuff. And that's just sort of a quick recap of what's been going on around here. But let's start getting into some actual knitting. All right, so I have two pattern drops for you in this episode. One is an independent pattern like I publish most often, and then the other one actually is a pattern that is making its debut in Interweave Knits winter issue. But let me talk about the independent pattern first because I am wearing it. So this is my Cautious Tones shawl. This is a worsted weight shawl that is worked in one skein solid color and one, or in this case, two skeins of a, what do I want to call it? Handspun style gradient. This is Spin Cycle Yarns Dream State, which is a DK worsted weight, and the solid color is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. So this debuted a couple of weeks ago. This is just a very textured, cozy shawl for the fall and well into the winter. It's nice and warm. The big sort of centerpiece is this stitch here. This is called Pearl Brioche, P-E-A-R-L, Pearl Brioche. It is, if you can do brioche, you can absolutely do this. So that's the biggest chunk of this pattern. The rest are sort of garter stitch, a slip garter stitch, some eyelet bands. I've got a couple of one of my favorite things in here. These Vickle or lateral braids. You can see they go side to side. And this is a great project if you are someone who really likes warm shawls. Lacy shawls are so nice to look at, but they just don't keep you that warm, especially this time of year. So I will go ahead and pop a few of the official photos in here. And so this is available in my Ravelry shop and my PayHip shop. If you are looking to go stash diving, or you want to pick up your yarn, this takes 2 skeins of the Dream State and 1 skein of the and 2 skeins of the Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. And the Dream State is 150 yards per skein, and the Brooklyn Tweed Shelter is 140 yards per skein. So you're looking at about 300 yards of each. But I will tell you right now that I used every last bit of yarn. And in fact, you can see that I actually did my bind off in the contrast color because I ran out of the blue yarn. So this is, especially if you like fast projects, since this is a worsted weight shawl, it knits up pretty quickly. And like I said, it's nice and cozy, wraps all the way around the front. I love this for fall and winter. So that is called Cautious Tones. And as I said, you can find it on Ravelry, in my PayHip shop, and on Love Knitting. And I will include links to all of those things in the box down below. And the other pattern drop I have for you, if you remember many podcasts, not that many, I don't podcast that often, quite a few podcasts back, I mentioned that I was working on a project that I was just hating, and I couldn't wait to get it done. And so that project has finally arrived. I'm gonna, again, pop a few photos in here. So this is the Vaulted Swancho. This is in the winter 2021 edition of Interweave Knits. As the name implies, it is a swancho. So it's a combination sweater poncho. It is designed to fit, with lots of ease, and I really love the way they have his style in this photo. I think they did a great job. But you can certainly, you can definitely wear it with the collar right up around your neck, not necessarily pull down over your shoulders. That's also just going to depend on what size you decide to make. If you want that sort of down over the shoulders, you want to go ahead and make a bigger size. So the pattern does include, I believe, 8 sizes. As you can see, this is stranded color work. It is worked entirely in the round, as I recall. It may have a split hem, I think, so maybe that part is knit flat, but the rest is worked in a round. And there's no reason that I hated this working on this project. Just one of those things where, like, I had an idea and I was really excited about it, but once I got into it, it was just, I'm not a fast stranded color work knitter, and this is all over color work, and of course it is supposed to be oversized, so it was just a very big project. And there were so many other things that I wanted to work on that by the end I was just done with it. But there is certainly nothing wrong with it. If you enjoy stranded color work particularly, it'll probably go a little bit faster for you than it did for me. It is knit in Harrisville Designs Flywheel, which is a nice rustic yarn, kind of gives it that kind of cozy rustic look. I'm sorry, my children are being so loud today. We'll have more on that later because there is a reason. But you can certainly substitute, perhaps a more traditional merino yarn that's actually going to make it a little drapier. So the rustic yarns, they sort of have a little bit more grip, and going to give it, maybe even a crisper look for the color work if you use that sort of more traditional style of yarn. So I have those 2 pattern drops for you. Of course, the Vaulted Swancho is available currently directly from Interweave Knits, either by buying the full winter edition or the single pattern. I will re-release it as an independent pattern way far away from now, in a year when the rights revert to me, but for now it is available exclusively through Interweave Knits, and I will include a link to that in the show notes. On and off the needles. Do I even have to tell you? I don't have anything off the needles, any personal knitting, but I have started a new project. So I mentioned in the last episode that I was going to cast on for a Descent pullover, and I showed you guys the yarn. So let's just take a peek at the pattern here, although I may not have printed the actual photos. Usually I skip that part. No, I didn't print the actual photos. As I believe I did last time, maybe I will just pop, oh, here we go. I printed a few of the photos. So this is what that looks like. And she has a couple of versions here included. And so I have cast on. And pretty much immediately after casting on, I decided I was going to start making some modifications. Nothing major, at least so far. Just the collar was worked in a 2x2 2x2 rib, which I don't like for this kind of project. So I switched it up to a 1x1 rib, and I also used a alternating cable cast on. So it kind of gives a little bit of that tubular cast on look, but is less fussy to work. And so this is the entirety of the progress I have made. I have finished the collar. Since finishing the collar several weeks ago, I really haven't done anything with this. You know, busy with designs, and they have been a distraction, so personal knitting gets put to the side as usual. But I have started another personal project. Of course, this is not from my Make 9 2020. My Make 9 2020, I think we can go ahead and call a bust. It is November 11th. I have completed one project. I bought a lot of yarn for other projects. That is pretty much it. I really have not had nearly as much personal knitting time as I had hoped this year. I always make that mistake, of course, especially now. As I think I said in the previous podcast, I'm now formally homeschooling Ollie. You know, he was of course doing the Zoom school like everyone else, but it was just miserable for him. He wasn't learning anything, and I was spending most of my time just trying to get him to focus on that. So we gave up, and now I am officially homeschooling him, so I have even less time than I would have imagined, because I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't have, I have a curriculum outline, but I don't have lesson plans. I don't have, teacher's editions of books. I don't have all of that stuff. It was really sort of not a spontaneous decision, but homeschooling was never in my in my plans. But gotta do what's best for him, and he is certainly learning things now. But that means that I really just don't have much time for personal knitting or even design knitting. So I have completed no projects other than design work, but I have started a new project. And since the year is winding down and I am retiring at the end of the year, hopefully this segment will start to become longer. I have a lot of whips, and my tentative plan for the new year is to only work on whips until I have finished a large chunk of them, including 2 baby blankets for my children who are now 6 and 7. So that's what I got for you for that segment. All right, Adelante. This is interesting. I can actually show you the last 3 patterns that I'm working on for the year, until the end of my design career. Because this is it. It is wrapping up. And so, so this one I'm very excited about. This is a pullover that I actually am planning to release at the end of this month. All right, so put this on the floor kind of out of the way. All right, so this is tentatively called this lighting is really lousy, I'm sorry guys. The long time pullover. So this is an all over what is called lice stitch, which is a terrible name for a stitch. Lice stitch pullover. It is a saddle shoulder. So you begin from these saddles, you work the back and the front separately, you join them under the arms, and then you work in the round down to the waist. And I've got sort of a rolled hem here at the waist, and then a ribbed hem with short rows, so it drops down in the back. So I've done the body. I have started the right sleeve. And so you can see here, these are seamless style set-in sleeves. So rather than sewing flat sleeves, which would be pretty miserable there is some parts of this that you have to work flat, the front and the back, before you join them. It was either that or give you guys a lot of ends to cut and weave in. So, but working color work flat is, I'm sure I've mentioned several times, not my favorite. Fortunately, with just this lice stitch, it's pretty simple. But instead of working the sleeves flat and sewing them in, you pick up all around the armhole and then use short rows to shape the sleeve cap, eventually starting to work in the round when you get to the underarm. So I have started that sleeve. It is going just fine. These seamless set-in sleeves are very simple to work. Designing them maybe is a little mathy, but actually working them is very simple. They're formed with short rows, but because you're working the short rows directly against this seam, you don't have to worry about picking up wraps and it looking, funky. Some people, have very neat and tidy wrap and turn short rows, and people like me do not. I cannot figure out how to knit my wraps together with my stitches and make them look good. But you don't have to worry about picking them up or anything. It gives you just this nice clean edge. And again, you do have to work back and forth until you get to the underarm, which isn't super fun for color work, but this is so simple. It's 3 stitches plain, 1 stitch with your contrast color. So I am planning to release this either just before or just after Thanksgiving here in the US, depending on how quickly I get these sleeves knit and the project photographed. It will just have a contrast trim at the collar, and I'm really excited about this project. I love the colors. I love the style. It was very 70s inspired for me. It was actually inspired by a sweater I saw while watching That 70s Show. So what I'm kind of doing now is thinking about how I want to style this for the official pattern photos. So I really want it to look kind of 70s-ish. So that is well underway. And as I said, that is going to be either right before or right after Thanksgiving, just depending on how quickly I can get those sleeves done. So that's number 1. Number 2 is I will be re-releasing the sock pattern from our Socktober Mystery Knit Along. Ta-da! This is just a cute little shorty sock. It uses 2 colors of yarn. You can definitely use leftovers or I don't want to say scraps, because I mean you need 100 yards of each color. What did I just say? 100 yards of each color at least, depending on what size you are knitting. But you can definitely use leftovers. So this project uses a slip stitch pattern to create this almost vertical stripe on the top of the foot that's repeated on the back, a regular heel flap and gusset, and because this stitch pattern, because it's a slip stitch, it pulls down a little bit, so down. So here I've worked in some reverse stockinette, which helps balance the 2 sides of the socks out. So I believe I included 6 sizes in this. This was our Socktober mystery knit along, so the clues have already been delivered. Everyone is hopefully wrapping up their socks and getting those photos posted to Instagram with the appropriate hashtags. And I will be picking a winner and sharing a prize soon, I believe on Friday. And today is Wednesday, so right about the time this podcast episode goes live. So this will be called the Good Dividends Socks. I will go ahead and publish the pattern probably, if not Friday, on Monday. I have not finished my second sock, but it is underway. But I think you can get a pretty good, pretty good clue as to what it looks like from just the one sock. So again, that's a shorty sock pattern, the Good Dividend Socks, 6 sizes. That is going to be released sometime in the next week. And then the last one, last design that I am working on. That's not technically true because I am working on a kid's version of Umo Marigo, but that doesn't really count. It's just a miniature, a miniature version of an existing pattern. So officially this is the last one. This is a sweater pattern, which I'm sure you can tell from this amorphous blob. This is going to be a Colorworks sweater pattern that is going to be published in December. Thinking right around Christmas time, for those who do celebrate Christmas. For those who don't, that's December 25th. I'm sure you know, because we just love to bombard everybody with Christmas and pretend other holidays don't exist. So this is a Colorwork sweater pattern. The color work is on the lower part of the body. So the yoke is just a raglan. I've put some short rows in to drop the front of the neck. I used German short rows for this, which I like much better. They look much tidier for me. I'm not sure how everybody else feels about them. I will do a tutorial for the German short rows sometime between now and when the pattern is published. So it's plain until you get to the color work yoke at the bottom of the hem. But it does have a bit of a unique style. So it's a swingy kind of A-line pullover. So A-line meaning it gets wider as it moves toward the hem. And the sleeves are also going to be swingy. So the sleeves are also going to get wider, and then they're going to cut off right below the elbow. I am working in stone wool. I don't remember the name of the base. I'll include it in the show notes, but it's a sport weight merino. You'll need 3 colors. It is a lovely yarn. It is not as smooth or tightly plied as sort of your regular merino yarn. It is a little bit more rustic, but it still has pretty nice stitch definition, and it's nice and soft. I am enjoying working with it so far. The pattern is underway. I need to get in my tech editor relatively soon, and as usual, I'm going to send her a pattern with a photo of like an eighth of a sweater. It is a little tricky. It's as I have been doing this year, I am trying to make sure that it is size inclusive. So the pattern includes 10 sizes, and raglan shaping for larger sizes is really tricky because the yoke depth does not increase at the same rate as the width of your body. So the width, or the bust circumference goes, from I think 32 to 64, but the yoke depth only varies by about 4 inches from the smallest to the largest size. So fitting the correct number of increases in gets trickier for the larger sizes because the yoke is not increasing as rapidly. The yoke depth is not increasing as dramatically as the bust circumference. So I am still fiddling with the larger sizes. I am also, I made this colorwork design, charted it out. It's very large. It's like 34 stitches. So being able to get, the correct number of repeats of it to fit is tricky. So I think what I'm gonna have to do is do 2 slightly different versions of the chart to fit the different sizes. We'll see. So I have a lot of work left to do with that. But it is underway, and this is, as I said, my last official pattern. I think I have 2 more patterns coming, but they're already done and will be published by a third-party publisher. So in terms of my independently published patterns, these are the last 3 that I am working on until forever. So here's our special guest star in this episode. This is Thistle. Because things aren't crazy enough, I thought we should get a dog. This is Thistle. She is now about a little over 3 months old. We rescued her. Well, not rescued. We adopted her from a rescue when she was 10 weeks old. Isn't she so cute? She's a little demon puppy. She's a girl. Her mama is a blue heeler, which is also formerly called an Australian cattle dog. We don't know anything about Dad. Based on her coloring, we're guessing German Shepherd. Her coloring and her shape and her size, we're guessing maybe some German Shepherd. So, yes, she's very sweet. She has been living with us for almost a month now. Hey, you. We adopted her right after my birthday. We had been looking to adopt a puppy. Yes, we heard. We had been looking to adopt a puppy, but puppies go quickly. And we wanted to make sure we got her from a rescue. So, she is our newest member of the family. Is that you? Are you so cute? Yes, you are. We are having a very difficult time potty training her. So, if you have any puppy potty training suggestions or puppy biting suggestions, look at all this, please let me know. Yes, you're such a stinker. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. She is very bitey, but she's just playing. But the children don't care about that. The children are, oh my goodness. Children are just not sure about this puppy. When she's being sweet, they like her. When she's playing too rough, they don't. I know what's going on around here. Where are you? You're never allowed in this room. So, she is our special guest star for this week, Thistle Winifred Hubert. Yes, she's such a sweet girl. Yes, you are. You want to say hi to everybody? What you want? Say hi. 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 Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I have to edit this out. I'm going to have to edit all that silly out. Mama's too silly. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. All right. That's our special guest star for this episode. So as I was saying, that is the reason the children are so loud today. Because Thistle is a handful. She is a puppy, and we decided to get a puppy because we thought that a large dog, because we want a bigger sized dog, we don't want a tiny dog, but we thought getting a big dog right away might be a more difficult adjustment for the kids. They might be scared by the bigger dog. But it turns out that puppies bite a lot, especially her, or at least her mom's breed, the blue heeler. They're cattle dogs. They're trained to herd cattle. So they nip and bite as part of their play, and they tend to view children as the cattle that they're supposed to herd. So she runs after them a lot, bites at their feet. As I said, she's bites me plenty too. And we are working on it. So when she is chasing them and getting, too riled up, they, especially the little one, just starts shrieking. But when she's being good and calm, they enjoy petting her and playing with her toys with her. Well, Ollie does more than JJ. So we are hoping that with training, it will become a little bit more peaceful around here. And certainly as she grows up, as I said, she's only a little over 3 months old now. We will just see how it goes. But yeah, there wasn't enough going on. I thought we should get a dog. Well, what a special day. We have another guest star. This is Dory. She's not happy about the dog. She is old and grumpy anyway, although she is currently purring. And she has been trying to steer clear of the dog, and if the dog gets too close, she is very quick with her claws. So the puppy is terrified of the cat and vice versa. I mean, the puppy is very interested in the cat, but she has been burned a couple of times already. Get your butt out of my face. So Dory is, I'm trying to remember, 2005, so I guess 15. She's 15 years old, so she's old but not ancient. Now she's just standing on the table. So since the puppy arrived, she has mostly taken up residence in Ollie's room. This is because Ollie sleeps on the floor on a mattress in JJ's room. So she seems, she's still coming down to eat and use the litter box. And last night she came down while the dog was sleeping on the sofa and, gave it some sniffing and then disappeared. She's still getting plenty of attention, but the dog is not her favorite. Okay, apparently Dory's going to join us for this segment too. So events. I want to talk a little bit about the Indie Design Gift Along, which is coming up. If you are not familiar with the Gift Along, it is a big sale and knit along to support independent knit and crochet designers. It is, I don't know, is this the 5th year maybe? That's the children screaming about the dog. And it is held around Thanksgiving time every year. It starts around Thanksgiving time every year. It starts with a big sale. Each participating designer has up to 20 of their patterns included in a special sale bundle that are 25% off. And then after the big sale, they host a whole bunch of knit alongs and crochet alongs. So there's, head things, neck things, sweaters, things like that to help everybody get all their holiday knitting done, or at least that's kind of the general idea. It's also a time when designers try to take advantage of an opportunity to knit other designers or crochet other designers' patterns when they normally don't get a chance to do that. It has always been held on Ravelry, and it will be held on Ravelry again this year, simply because there is no other platform that is going to do all of the things that the people who run this event need it to do. And I am going to be participating because I cannot afford not to participate. And I think a lot of independent designers are going to be in the same boat, where we have been actively trying to encourage people to shop in our PayHip stores or on our websites or on Etsy or whatever to get the patterns, to sort of take the fees away from Ravelry and kind of give them a push to address all of the accessibility issues that they have been ignoring. But at the same time, this event is a huge chunk of many designers' yearly income. And that is the case for me as well. And so I can't afford not to participate. So they have made some, as best they can, made some changes to hopefully make this event as inclusive and as it can be. But again, with the understanding that there is no other platform available to run this event the way that it is intended to be run. For my part, all of the patterns that I will have on sale on Ravelry as part of this event will also be on sale in my PayHip shop. So in terms of the sale part of the event, you're going to be able to get 25% off these patterns, regardless of whether you're shopping on Ravelry or PayHip. But in terms of the actual knit along, that is going to be hosted on Ravelry because that's the way they have to do it. Of course, you are welcome to knit along, even if you're not using Ravelry, but in terms of being entered for prizes and things like that, you have to be able to post your finished objects, as far as I know, in the appropriate threads for your knit alongs in order to be eligible for prizes. And the other thing is a lot of the prizes are codes for free patterns from the participating designers, which are only available to be used on Ravelry. So again, if you are participating in this event and you, through whatever means, you're able to get into the forums long enough to participate and enter your finished objects, and you win a prize, but you don't want to shop through Ravelry, I'm going to say, if you've got one of my coupon codes, I will, honor it on PayHip. I'll send you a different code to use over on PayHip or whatever. But I will still be participating because not participating is not an option for me in terms of making my business profitable for the year. So that event is coming up. It is always a fun event. It's really unfortunate that these Ravelry issues have put, such a kind of black mark on it this year, because it has always been just lots of fun, people talking and sharing their projects, and designers getting to knit other designers' patterns, and supporting everybody while they're getting their holiday knitting done, and I really think it's unfortunate, and wish that there were some way that they were able to host it elsewhere, but at this point they can't do that. So I hope you will be able to participate. I know there is an alternate event happening. I haven't looked into it that much yet. It's called the something yarn along. I will put the link in the show notes, and hopefully have some time to look into it by the time I do the next podcast and tell you guys a little bit more about that, if it's more your speed. I don't know if there will be designers participating in both. I don't know if designers are welcomed to participate in both. Like I said, I really haven't. I've just seen a couple of things about it here and there on Twitter, people mentioning it, but I don't know that much about it, and I haven't had time to look. But there is an alternative if you aren't able to use Ravelry, and I will include the link in the show notes so that if that includes you, you can investigate that for yourself. But it's hard to say. I'm looking forward to an event that is not going to be inclusive and accessible to all knitters and crocheters, through no fault of the event organizers. But I am looking forward to the event in terms of just that it has always been fun in the past, and I hope it will continue to be fun. And as I said, I know that the people who organize it have put time and effort into trying to work around Ravelry and make as many elements of it as they can accessible to everybody. So I hope that if that's something that interests you, you will look into it more. And of course, links in the show notes. All right, so these are the only successful flower I grew this year for my dye garden. These are the Queen Sophia marigolds. You can see there are all kinds of oranges and almost reds and sort of more pale yellows. So what I'm going to try to do now is to dry the petals and store them until I'm ready to try some dyeing. I really don't think have enough yet, but colder weather is coming, so I don't know how long they'll last once they're dry. I'm going to try drying them in the oven on this baking sheet. When I read on the internet, it said 145 degrees. My oven doesn't go that low. It goes to 170, so what I'm going to do is leave the door open a little bit, and we will see what happens. Yeah, this really doesn't seem to be working. It seems to be cooking the petals rather than dehydrating them. The temperature is just too high. So I will let them cool off. I might save them anyway and see what happens. Otherwise, I will try again next year to get some flowers for dyeing, and I will next time probably hang them to dry. All right, that about wraps it up for this episode. I do hope to podcast again in the relatively near future, since I had such a big delay between this one and the previous one, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 28 of the podcast. Links to everything I talked about are in the show notes at mediaperuana.com/Hilo and Stitch. A special thank you again to my Patreon patrons who support the podcast and Media Peruana Designs. If you are interested in supporting the podcast and also getting perks and freebies and other goodies for doing so, you can find more information at patreon.com/mediaperuana. If you are looking for me on social media, you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Media Peruana. And here on YouTube, I hope if you enjoyed the podcast, you will like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, all of that good stuff, which will help expand the reach of the podcast and the YouTube channel, which is full of free knitting tutorials. And that, again, is all I have for you this time. I will see you in the next episode.
Yes, no.
Got it.
I'm not going to do this because I don't want to win my own prize. It'll be a
It's a spot that you had to re-rub.
Oh, see? It's to get combined. You screwed it up.
Huh?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I assumed that was a video. Yeah.
Well, you didn't knock it over that time. I guess it's an improvement. There we go. I mean, have you successfully split anything yet?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Some tree bark. Yes, you can. Good work. Are you gonna jump in the leaf pile? Yeah. Sure. Now what? What are you doing, silly? Yeah, we need a bigger pile, huh?
Okay, I will.